lovely friends, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are bringing you another Fresh Reads Friday. Fresh Reads Friday, for anyone who is new to the channel, is the occasional review series where I take something that I have read recently and review it for you. Today we're going to be talking about Daughter of Redwinter by Ed McDonald. This is an adult fantasy. It is the first book in the Redwinter Chronicles, and it was kindly sent to me by Tor Books for an honest review. In this, we follow our main character, Rain. Rain has a special type of magic that is not really, it's kind of frowned upon, kind of might get her put to death. She can see the dead. Rain has been hiding this magic since she was a very, very small child. Currently, she is hiding out with a group of other people. They're under siege because it has been kind of like hinted at that someone with Rain's type of magic is in their group, and so they're being hunted down. And in looking for a way for them to escape these people that are trying to kill all of them, she ends up stumbling on a young woman who is fleeing from these two knights. And in doing so, she actually gets involved in some other supernatural stuff and ends up involving this group of knights, the Drauhin, and ends up being taken back to their fortress, where all of them, if they knew what she could do, would kill her. I definitely thought that this was an interesting and compelling book, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. Now let's get into the specifics of what I liked and didn't like, starting first with characters. So I know that people's first kind of hesitation for this book is that it is a male writer writing a 17-year-old woman. I actually thought that he handled writing a female point of view pretty well. While obviously not perfect, I did think that the representation of women in this novel makes it stand out from certain other examples. There were no major like, oh my god, this was definitely written by a man moments. I did appreciate that there are multiple women in this cast, that they are not all the same person, and we even see some women in power. My one thing I will say is that while there are like a lot of women who are side characters, and we do get to see most of the main characters that interact with Rain are men, so like we have a lot of women in the cast, but we don't get to see much of them. However, the few moments that we do get in regards to some of the other female characters and some of the bonding and friendship that happens between these women, I really did enjoy. Speaking of some of the bonding and the friendship, let's just say I don't think that Rain is interested in all of them as friends, and she is very confused by it, and it is kind of adorable to watch her kind of go through this moment where she's like, maybe it's not just dudes. Maybe it's not. I don't really know that there were any prominent male love interests in this book that I would actually like peg money on, but the main relationship that looks like it's going to be pursued is a sapphic one. Wouldn't like bet any money on it, but it's a definite like more of a possibility than any of the dudes she interacts with. I also liked seeing, now I'm not sure how well he handled this situation, because when we see Rain at the very beginning of the book, she's in a little bit of like a kind of a grooming situation, and it's one of those things that like when you first see it, you're like, okay, well, based on what most people know about the Middle Ages and the ages that people think people got married at, yada, 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 this makes sense. It's not a terribly egregious age gap. So I don't know how well the situation was like handled in the narrative. I'm on the fence about that, but I did like how Rain ends up working through those feelings and that realization as we see her go through the rest of the novel, and I like how that also ties into her main narrative arc in this particular book. I will say that like this is kind of a character thing, but also it feels like kind of an author thing, is there is some fat phobia in this novel. We do have a fat character that is introduced and described pretty decently in our first like interaction with them. And I was like, oh, well, this is refreshing, because it's not like making any moral judgments on this person for being fat, all of that stuff. And then every single scene we have with this character, it's talking about how he's eating. Like almost every scene, there is some mention of what he's eating or drinking or something like that. And it's one of those things that like it doesn't seem like a moral judgment on him for this, but because that is continually what is being like talked about in regards to this character, that is something that I would like to see be done better in the next book, and something that I will definitely be putting in my feedback to the publisher when I send my review. From there, let's talk about the plot of this novel. Now, I will say it takes a minute for the real action in this to get started, because the situation that Rain is in when we meet her at the beginning of the novel, while that introduces her to the people she's going to be interacting with the most, there is still a situation going on that needs to be resolved, so it does take a minute to get anywhere. And then there's a lot of, there's a bit of traveling at the very beginning of the book, so like, it's not all that, I promise, but like, if that's something that turns you off, just know that is there. If you like a good medieval political thriller, this is going to be a good one for you, especially if you like the clan politics around Scottish history. The Drowned are definitely a monastic order. There's definitely like a system of lairds and vassals and all of that stuff going on here. I thought that that was really well done and well fleshed out. It's not historical because it's not a history novel, but it still felt very based on like what really would happen. It did have some really interesting twists and things that kind of shake up the reader's perception of what's going on with Rain, what's happening in the major plot. There are some big events that really have you sitting there, okay, hold on. What is really going on here? What's going on with this magic system? I will say, though, that it seemed like the author wasn't entirely sure who the bad guy was. We flip-flop multiple times to who Rain thinks are the good guys and the bad guys, and it feels really weird how the ultimate villain is handled in this, especially considering that Rain is currently living with people who would stone her if they knew what she was, and she's getting very attached to them, and she's defending them, and like knowing that they would kill her, but also like caring about them and like wanting to defend them. And it kind of made me feel a little bit weird with how that was handled. That's most of why this did not get 4 or 5 stars, was just like, this was a very odd dynamic to have her in this place where she is in danger 24/7 and yet have her wanting to stay there. And granted, there are a lot of like answers that she is getting there. There's a lot that she is learning. It's politics balanced with this mystery that's trying to resolve what happened at the beginning of the novel, while Rain is learning more or trying to find out more about her powers and about this magic. But it just felt weird to have her being like, yeah, these people want me dead, but they're not bad people in the book. And I just did not feel great about that. I don't know how I feel about it yet, because I feel like we didn't really get the ending of that plot and those realizations, and it's something that could be explored in other novels with the same kind of skill that I saw the author exploring the grooming plot and her realizations there. So I haven't written the series off. I really do want to see how this plot line plays out, but it did make me feel a little weird. As for the world building, I think there's a really good seed of an idea here. Ed McDonald had me wanting to know more about this world, more about what Rain's particular type of ghost magic is and how it comes, like what's going on with that. We get a little bit of explanation for that, but not nearly as much exploration as I think we are going to get in later novels, just based on some of the events of this one. Like I said, I like this very kind of Scottish, medieval kind of hierarchy that we have going on with all of these different powers that are in this world, and the fact that you have the people, like the lairds that are trying to hold on to their land, and you also have people coming in from the outside. There is a king involved, but there were just elements of it that I felt were a little unclear. There was a lot that just kind of, I wish we had gotten more into, that we had had more explanation of, especially when it comes to like the specific magic system that the monks use, the gates, because there's just so much going on here, and there's kind of hints that what's going on with these monks and what's going on with Rain is involved in some way, possibly connected, and I just would have liked like a little bit more explanation. I know a lot of that is shrouded because Rain is learning it as the audience is learning it, and so she's not, like, there's a lot of it that she's struggling with. It's kind of a place where I think we might have like benefited from another point of view that knew more about what was going on, because there is a lot of action that happens off page, and Rain is trying to put the pieces together after the fact. So I do think that there was room for just a little bit more explanation of the world and a little bit more going into the magic system. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, and if you're looking at something that kind of skims over the magic system and only gives you what you need, this would definitely be a good book for you to read. All of that said, I think that this is going to be great for people who like political fantasy. I think this is going to be great for people who don't want a fantasy that's going to get bogged down in the details of the world building, and also if you like ghost magic and spirits and stuff in your novels, this is a great one for you to pick up. So those are my thoughts for Daughter of Redwinter by Ed McDonald. This book did come out on June 28th, so if you are interested in it, you can definitely run down to the bookstore or your library or wherever and grab a copy for yourself. I have an ARC here somewhere, but it was out, so I got the nice, pretty, finished library edition. Speaking of which, thank you very much to Tor Books for sending me that ARC. If you are feeling chatty, please let me know in the comments what is like your favorite type of fantasy. Do you like the political fantasy? Do you like the very high fantasy? Like, what is your favorite kind of fantasy sub-genre? If you are not feeling chatty, but you want to let me know that you watched to the end of the video, go ahead and leave me the night sky emoji. That will only make sense if you have read this book, but go ahead and leave that for me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you enjoyed this video, I will have other videos right over here for you to watch. If you're looking for more reviews, check out this playlist up here, or check out whatever is newest on my channel right down here. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!